Beans, beans, good for your heart. The more you eat, the more you might need to open a window. Hi, and welcome to Uncle Scott's Kitchen. Today we're going to brush up on our bean soaking and cooking techniques. Did you run out to Walmart, to Costco, to Sam's and buy 100 pounds of dried beans in the last couple of weeks for these quarantines, for these shelter-in-place orders? If so, do you actually know how to cook them properly? That's what we're going to focus on today. I'm going to show you a few techniques to soak your beans, to brine them correctly, to cook them correctly, and if everything goes well, your wife will be asking you to quit fluffing the sheets in no time. Let's get started. Method 1, overnight soak and brine. This method produces the best final cooked beans. Beans with good texture and not too many exploded or cracked. I especially like this method for dishes that I cook for other people, where presentation is important. Say cannellini beans for a fancy ribollita for a family Sunday dinner, even kidneys or reds for red beans and rice. Something I'm going to serve to other people. When you don't want to take a chance on serving up mushy, exploded beans, use this method. Simply dissolve 3 tablespoons of salt in a gallon of water. Add your beans, make sure there are 2 inches or so of water covering the beans. Stir, cover, and let them sit overnight. After the soak, drain and rinse the beans thoroughly, and then they are ready to cook. Now, some people say that the beans need to soak for 24 hours, but I've found that if I start them around 10 o'clock at night before I go to bed, they'll soak 17 hours or so by the time I'm ready to make soup the following afternoon, and that's good enough for me. Now, these brined beans should cook up nicely in 45 minutes to an hour on the stovetop, or when I use my old school pressure cooker, they'll finish in 15 minutes or so. A few notes here. Because you discard the soaking water, there is not much benefit to adding any flavorings while brining. You can wait to flavor your beans when you actually cook them. And while this method makes the best final bean, the downside is that it takes the longest time. So if it's 4 in the afternoon and you want to make fancy soup for supper, well, you should have thought of that yesterday. You have to plan ahead. You know, I think the dried bean toilet paper industrial complex has us right where they want us, and we never saw it coming. Method 2, quick soak and modified quick soak. These methods take a moderate amount of time and are great when presentation and texture are not overriding factors. For example, when I make a nice zuppa di ceci, an Italian chickpea soup, I use a hand blender to turn the cooked chickpeas into a thick, hearty soup base. Since they're being ground up anyway, texture and appearance don't really matter so much. So a quicker method is perfectly acceptable here. For a regular quick soak, bring abundant salted water up to a boil, add your beans, boil for 2 to 3 minutes, cover, remove from the heat, and let them sit for an hour or so. Then you're ready to drain, rinse, and cook them. For my modified method, I use my Fissler VitaQuick pressure cooker. I add my water, beans, and salt, bring the unit up to pressure, which takes about 9 minutes or so on my high output burner. Then I turn off the heat, but I don't open the pressure cooker. After an hour, depending on the dish I'm cooking, the beans can be drained, rinsed, and cooked in a soup, or sometimes I just turn the burner back on, bring it up to heat for 20 minutes or so, and then the beans are fully cooked and ready to eat. These quick soak methods produce decent results, but you can expect a few more exploded beans. Maybe not the picture perfect beans for presentation like the ones from the overnight soak method. Method 3, just cook them. With this method, there is no pre-soaking, no draining, no rinsing. We just cook the beans straight out. Again, here I'm using my Fissler VitaQuick pressure cooker. Since the beans will fully cook in this liquid, I add flavorings at this point. I might add a smashed clove of garlic, a bay leaf, some whole peppercorns, what have you, in with my beans, water, and salt. I bring the unit up to pressure and cook for 20 to 30 minutes or so. Bigger beans like cannellini and pinto may take a half hour. Smaller reds or blacks take 25 minutes or less. Cook time varies based on bean size, your altitude. I'm at about 4,500 feet, and so on. Start to finish, including bringing the unit up to pressure, I go from dried beans to fully cooked in less than 40 minutes. It's quick, easy, and there's no soaking or prep involved. The trade-off here is that more of the beans tend to explode and the texture isn't quite as good as with the other methods. But it's perfectly adequate for cooking for oneself in a quarantine or shelter-in-place situation. And you know, just eyeballing all these quarantine beans, that hoard of 900 rolls of toilet paper might not be enough. Without a pressure cooker, you can just gently boil your quarantine beans until they are done. This can take 2 hours or more, and make sure you watch them carefully towards the end so that they don't turn into a big pot of mush. Now let's see a few best bean cooking tips. Do use salted water to cook your beans. Either add salt to the water, or if you use broth or stock or a soup base with pancetta or ham, note that these add salt as well. Do not add tomatoes, tomato paste, or other acidic ingredients too early. These can prevent beans from cooking correctly. Add them to your dish later when the beans are almost done. And if you have very hard water or somehow got hold of an old batch of beans and they just won't seem to soften no matter what you do, try adding a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda and that might help. Okay, I love all you guys. I want everybody to stay healthy, stay safe. If you're stuck at home and have some extra free time, why not put it to good use and develop some of your cooking techniques? We've shown a few good ones today for cooking some dried beans. Let me know in the comments below what you're cooking during this quarantine. How's it going for you? I hope everybody makes it through okay, and we'll get back to normal before too long. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's Kitchen.